Hello, let me check in with another check in about Othello. Not because of reading more Othello, but because I watched the video over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse of Jason Lukash and Rainey talking about Othello. And they had a really good conversation. And they did kind of, you know, Othello as this black man in this, written by this white dude in, 1600 ish around time, England. And the kind of influence of race and stuff like that, and they made some really interesting points, and they were saying like, well, of course we're looking at it from because they were all three Americans. We're looking at it from American point of view of race, of what being a black man means in a white space, and how that gets um, can be oftentimes the racism, the things that happen to a black man in that space. But we don't really know what the attitudes were at the time. And if we had Steve Donahue here or Jason Harrigan, they could point out a book to us or something like that. And I was thinking about that because while I am nowhere near the levels of knowledge of a Steve Donahue or Jason Harrigan, I was thinking like, oh, but what I have been reading at the moment, as a kind of a spin-off from my Don Quixote books, is books like Tarrant LeBlanc, where very much we have attitudes towards Moors, and this is Muslim, Islamic figures, and the threat that Europe was feeling about the Ottoman Empire coming for Europe, overrunning Constantinople. Um, you know, this was an existential threat to them, and I mean, in the play, um, the threat they do have a threat of the Turks, of the Ottomans coming for them, and seems like the very elements rebel against that and crash them, and they don't actually have to have the battle, and thus we get the tragedy instead of Othello. But it's like thinking about like Othello, and I typed into my little magic box, like, was Othello a Christian? And it's like, if I've been doing like more careful reading of Othello, it's like, yes, he's a converted Christian. He was taken up, kidnapped by, enlisted forcibly by the Turks into their army, fought in the Ottoman, the Turkish Ottoman Empire's army, was captured by Venetians, and has converted to Christianity. So, and now he's fighting against, he is like highly valued by the Venetians as a great general, fighting against the very people that he used to fight for. Um, so it's like, it's interesting to kind of keep that in mind about Othello, is that and Othello might actually be his name. It seems to be maybe his baptismal name. It's not his original name. Is that he is in a way somebody who has turned. He's changed sides. He's changed sides politically. He's changed sides religiously, religion, and on a religion thing, and how those kind of figures get viewed in European context. There's very much a thing of the conversos in Spain, around the time of Shakespeare. I know of them from Don Quixote, where they were being driven out of Spain. Basically, they were of the wrong ethnicity, and their conversion was not trusted. They were highly suspicious of, and they were driven out. How successfully they were driven out of Spain, it kind of remains to be seen, but they were driven. They really did not like them. There was super big prejudice against them. And you think about that with Othello, um, of like, all the kind of the splits and divisions and the mistrust that would be kind of kind of put up against him. Um, I looked at one article and it said like, well, black being black is something that's like is a lot easier to dramatize on stage than religion, than circumcision. But that, like, Othello, when he gets referred to as a devil, we're not in race, we're in religion. And so, even though, obviously with Othello, and you have to say that the black skin of Othello is definitely getting pulled out there. There's a lot of stuff of his baptism, of his sins, that is got to do with his religion. And you know, does he die a Christian, or has he kind of reverted to his original kind of Muslim Islamic state by the end of the play? Like, is his redemption? This is a thing of like, this is written by somebody who's in a Christian context, looking at this character who has converted, but then has done this horrible deed, um, and how they were pushed to it, how they were manipulated to it. It's interesting thoughts. Interesting thoughts. All right, I will leave it there. Babble, babble, babble. More videos later.